Gestetner Lesotho Sun Roof of Africa Rally is one of the highlights of the Southern African motorsport calendar. Over more than 20 years, the Roof has earned its reputation as one of the world's toughest off-road races, and each year presents a challenge few off-roaders can resist. Each year, both the car and motorcycle categories draw entries from the cream of South African talent, along with competitors from overseas. The pre-race paddock areas were once again a hive of activity. Few motorsport events and certainly no off-road race would be the same without the last-minute preparations. There's always something that has to be fixed, replaced, polished or stuck onto a vehicle before a car or motorcycle goes through the scrutineering and documentation process. The Roof of Africa was this year the final round in the South African Cross-Country Rally Series. With a great deal at stake for championship contenders, nothing was being left to chance. With 3 days of racing ahead over some of the roughest country in Africa, a great deal of attention was being paid to detail. A huge amount of time and effort goes into preparing machinery for an event like the Roof, and during the pre-race formalities, the adrenaline starts to flow. The pre-race preparations are a prelude to the now traditional Round the Houses races. Backed this year by the Alliance Insurance Group, the Round the Houses is not only a race within a race, but turns Maseru, the capital of Lesotho, into a giant carnival. The Round the Houses races are a highlight of the year for many local residents, who queue from early in the morning for the best vantage points. For the competitors, the Round the Houses events also offer an early opportunity to stretch their legs. Some competitors get more of a kick out of the Round the Houses section than others. Much of the racing is highly spectacular, and drivers, riders and the crowd all enter into the spirit of the occasion. Events forming part of the South African Cross-Country Rally Series are run over a minimum distance of 1,000 kilometers. One of the beauties of the series is the varied conditions offered up by events which form part of the series. From the mealie fields of the Western Transvaal and the Botswana Desert to the mountains of Lesotho, the series provides a true test of man and machinery. A youthful-looking Paddy driver won the Roof of Africa in 1972. Driver's been racing for more than 40 years, and back in action in the AAD Video Sport Range Rover, he talked about the tremendous change in off-road racing over the years.
It's like daylight. It's like daylight, I promise you. The speed we were going in the truck, we would have won in 70, 72. Now, 22 years later, I mean, we're running at the back of the field. These Sandmasters with air suspension and 2 feet of travel, whatever it is that they've got, I mean, they just go over the bump. They don't even know the bumps are there. And we're busy gritting our teeth and hanging on and getting headaches and sore necks and God knows what. The sport has changed a hell of a lot.
On the motorcycle front, 5-times winner Alfie Cox was an outright favourite on the Pro Action Castrol KTM, but took it easy to set the 8th fastest time. Springbok Errol Dalton has not been a regular in this year's off-road series, but made a welcome return on the Schumels Yamaha and was 6th fastest in the time trial. The flamboyant Willie Ireland on the SKF Delmas Diesel Suzuki carried a race cam fitted to his helmet. Dramatic footage provides for a graphic picture of what it takes to ride a motorcycle on the Roof of Africa. A legendary figure in South African off-road racing, Charlie Tisson now lives in the United States, but was back to renew old acquaintance with the race. Tisson's now in the veterans category, and it was one of the young lions of South African off-road racing who set the pace in the time trial. Lesotho office equipment rider Yuri Human is a real flyer, and on a couple of occasions this season has been in with a chance of winning a national event. Human set a cracking pace in the time trial, but was beaten by surprise package Tom Klaassen on a Kawasaki, who led the 500 class. Richard Manning, winner of the Land Rover Barberspun 1000 earlier in the season, led home the 200 class motorcycles on the Winston Yamaha. Bloemfontein rider Graham McLaughlin was 2nd fastest in the 200 class on the Lesotho office equipment Kawasaki. And while the competitors were hard at work out on the route, race officials were equally busy at rally headquarters. A comprehensive radio network kept track of competitors' progress through various checkpoints, with times and results radioed back to the official scorers. Tom Klaasen was the surprise name in the top 10 in the motorcycle time trial results. The other top 10ers were all expected to be in the leading group. On the car side, now another trip down memory lane. In 1984, Neil Woolridge won the Roof of Africa on a 500 Kawasaki motorcycle. Woolridge now campaigns in off-road on four wheels in the Sani Motorsport entry and riding the roof at different animals.
It's totally different. It's I think a lot more mentally tired sitting in a car, because you've got to sit and bounce around all the time. You can't stand up and move around, and you can't miss rocks and things like that. You've got to crash over everything, so you get pretty tired sitting in that car. But not too physically tired, but very mentally tired.
For Racing Section 1, the motorcycle contingent followed a different route to the cars. It was going to be just as tough, with poleman Darrell Curtis on the Winston Yamaha setting his sights on a place in the top 5 at the end of day 1.
Right, I'm happy to be where I am, starting first. If anybody comes up behind me, I can at least stay with them. I'm going to try finishing the first 5 at the end of today.
After taking it easy in the time trial, 5-times winner Alfie Cox decided it was time to stop playing games and came flying through the field on the Pro Action Castrol KTM. When he's in the mood, and that's most of the time, Cox is in a class of his own in South African off-road. And it didn't take him long to scythe through the field and move ahead of Tom Klaasen to take second place. Klaasen was also under pressure from Errol Dalton on the Schumwells Yamaha, who was third in the 250 class behind Curtis and Cox. Klaasen was leading the 500 class, but was about to lose out to Yuri Human on the Lesotho Office Equipment Kawasaki, with the big guns starting to fire on all cylinders. Richard Manning is the only rider to have twice won marathon events on a 200 machine, and was the first of the 200 brigade on the Winston Yamaha. Behind him, Willie Ireland was also starting to make a move up the leaderboard on the SKF Delmas Diesel Suzuki. At the bike refuel, cans of petrol stood like lonely sentries waiting for the competitors to arrive. It was no surprise when Alfie Cox was first on the scene in the Pro Action Castrol KTM. Cox had bombed his way to the front and was starting to stamp his authority on the race.
Alfie! Alfie, you want something to eat? Quickly.
A band of local spectators were intrigued by what was going on, but Cox had other matters on his mind. Last year, Cox lost the Roof of Africa rally when he missed a route control checkpoint, and this time the experienced Springbok was taking no chances. Darrell Curtis and Errol Dalton arrived at the refuel simultaneously. For the bikers, there's no such thing as the luxury of a service crew to lend a helping hand, and it's every man for himself.
5 6. 5 6. 7. This is the last refuel.
While Dalton and Curtis rode back into battle, new 200 class leader Alex Vowles arrived at the refuel point in 4th place on the Antilex Dairy Kawasaki. In a tremendous effort, Vowles had moved ahead of Richard Manning to slot in behind the leading 250 class machines at the front of the field.
Fine. How's it going? All right.
On the motorcycle side, Alfie Cox was on track for his 6th roof victory. Vowles led the 200 class ahead of Graham McLaughlin, with Yuri Human out in front in the 500 class.
I've got a 10-minute gap, so it's better than nothing for tomorrow. But then the pressure's also on me tomorrow, because I've got to not make any mistakes, and I've got to keep a cool head and just maintain a good steady pace
the
like I did
motorcycle
today.
brigade followed a circular route from the start back to the finish in Maseru. But unless something untoward happened, Alfie Cox was a cinch to add another chapter to his Roof of Africa legend. Cox simply took up where he left off the previous day and again demonstrated why there's no one to touch him in South African off-road racing. Behind the race leader, Errol Dalton and Darrell Curtis were still riding together. The pair had decided to keep each other company, and their only problem was to stay ahead of whoever was trying to sneak up behind them. It was tough going up the mountain tracks, but for the bikers, this sort of thing is all in a day's fun. There'd been another change in the 200 class. Overnight leader Alex Vowles lost around an hour when he took a wrong turn. And Richard Manning went back into the lead on the Winston Yamaha. Still riding together, Errol Dalton and Darrell Curtis were enjoying themselves hugely. A flat-out section not far from the finish gave the pair the chance to indulge in some showboating, and they were making the most of the opportunity. Back with the cars, in the 200 class in the motorcycle section, there'd been another change of leadership. The Lesotho Office Equipment Kawasaki, ridden by Graham McLaughlin, had moved ahead of Richard Manning, who ran into late problems on the Winston Yamaha. In any sport, there's no substitute for class, and Alfie Cox once again proved to be the class act of the Roof of Africa rally. The Italian cruised to his 6th win in one of the world's toughest off-road races. The fact that only one other rider, Italian Elio Andrioletti, had ever won the Roof more than twice puts Cox's record in the race into perspective. First to congratulate a delighted Cox was his wife.
For Alfie Cox, 6 times winner.
But in traditional fashion, Johnson roared into the stadium at the finish, looking as fresh as he did at the start. Cox was busy signing autographs at the finish, and the AAD Land Rover squad were celebrating with champagne when Herman and Cole Heiss-Silwald crossed the line to win the special vehicle class.
That's the entry of Herman in the race car.
Overall victory and 250 class honours to Alfie Cox in the bike category, with Graham McLaughlin winning the 200 class and Tom Claassen the 500 category.
They haven't had rain here, it looks like, for a long time, and you know, it's so eroded, it's rutted, it's dry. When they did have rain, all the topsoil has been washed away and the rocks are sticking out even worse than ever. And it gets harder and harder every time we come here.